We begin with the bushfire emergency in our southeast, where temperatures have dropped and weather conditions are easing, enabling crews to work on containing the blazes. In Victoria, some rain has fallen over fire grounds in the alpine region. One emergency warning is in place for a blaze threatening lives and homes near Hotham Heights. 11 watch and act alerts are also in place. In New South Wales, a southerly change is giving firefighters a brief reprieve after wind gusts whipped up blazes during the night. 3 bushfires near the border with Victoria have merged, forming a mega blaze. There are 147 blazes burning in New South Wales, more than 60 are uncontained. Now, joining me live is the New South Wales RFS Deputy Commissioner Rob Rogers. Deputy Commissioner, thankfully, firstly, no further loss of homes or lives overnight, but we have had some injuries with those 4 firefighters as well as the man who suffered burns near Tumbarumba. Do we have any update on his condition?
I understand he's in a serious condition in Concord Hospital and obviously awaiting further specialist treatment, but he remains there under medical care.
And overall, what is the picture looking like across New South Wales at the moment?
Well, look, of all those fires, we've obviously got a lot of still active fire, particularly if you go from Albury all the way down the border and then all the way through to Eden, there's all active fire along the border with Victoria. Then we've got all those fires in the Tumut area, fires in the Southern Highlands, and then obviously in the Blue Mountains. So there's an enormous amount of fire still burning in the landscape. Luckily today it's obviously quite calm given the level of lower winds, cooler conditions, so it's certainly not a dangerous fire day, but there is still a lot of fire there and there's a lot of work to do. There's weeks and weeks of work for firefighters to try and get containment on these fires, and look, and we'll do what we can, particularly where these fires are nearest properties, to try and get level of containment lines ahead of conditions warming up again. But look, for the next few days we've got some good reprieve.
With those 3 fires merging around the Snowy Mountains, is that where the main focus is in terms of that fire activity, or is there elsewhere that's of more concern?
Well, look, I think some of the areas that are concerning to us, I mean, that fire is certainly something we're going to be monitoring, but there's not a lot of access into some of those areas just because obviously it's in the Snowy Mountains region. It's really difficult to get to. But those fires around Tumut, we've still got state forests that are quite in danger of being burnt. We want to keep fire out of that because it's really important to that Tumut local community. Those fires up in near Bundanoon and Wingello and the Southern Highlands, that's right near very populated areas, so there becomes something we want to focus. And then that fire just south of the Blue Mountains, that's obviously again something, if we don't do something about that, then when the conditions do deteriorate, we'll get problems with those fires again. So there's an enormous amount of work for firefighters to do, and that will be our focus over the next few days.
With that reprieve, what other efforts will we be seeing undertaken today to help with the communities still recovering after the fire ripped through those areas?
Yeah, people obviously still counting building losses. We still haven't finished counting. I think it's up to 2,079 homes lost now this fire season. So I think we've got more than 30 teams out again today. So we'll continue that work, advising people the status of their property, trying to help people get back to their property. And I think they're still trying to restore power to some areas. So firefighters will obviously try and help those agencies gain access to those areas so we can restore normality as quick as we can to those people that obviously their homes are intact.
Shane Fitzsimmons is greeting more overseas firefighters, we understand, at the moment. With them being on a 30-day rotation, how long can we expect to keep calling on international help and keep rotating international firefighters through Australia?
Well, look, I think as long as we have the amount of fire in the landscape, and obviously if that starts to reduce, then we'll consider what we need. But at the moment, we're going to be going at this for weeks and weeks still. So we certainly will make sure we'll keep calling for those assistance as we need it.
And finally, we did see those massive climate change protests in capital cities last night over the bushfires. Were you disappointed by the timing of them?
Oh, look, I guess from our point of view, we just remain focused on what we're doing, and that's fighting fires and trying to make sure we're protecting people's property. Obviously, we're in no control of what people do, and obviously the politics around that. We just stay focused on fires.
We know that your colleagues over at the Victoria Police or other police services around the country have said that it takes away some of their much needed resources at this time. Do you think it's having an impact?
Well, I guess I can't speak for police and what they do. Certainly it's not taking away any of our resources, but certainly, as I say, we're just very much focused on helping those people whose properties are still at risk.
Thanks very much for your time. New South Wales RFS Deputy Commissioner Rob Rogers. We'll head to Victoria now, where authorities have confirmed 2 structures believed to be a home and a shed were destroyed in the border town of Wodonga overnight. Weary firefighters there will finally receive some much-needed relief as 10 days of milder conditions are forecast across the state. Let's go live now to Gabrielle Powell, who is in Bright in the state's northeast. Gab, residents are finally returning home.
They certainly are, Andrea, and we finally have some good news for not only firefighters but those residents who have been in and out of the fire danger zone for weeks. We had significant rainfall overnight, not nearly enough to put out the bushfires, but enough to slow them down. Yesterday, authorities sent out about 240,000 text messages to residents in the Alpine region and East Gippsland telling them to evacuate. In Harriettville, the ADF worked closely with Victoria Police, knocking on people's homes, telling them to leave now. We also saw emergency services made the unprecedented step of supplying towns such as Bright, where I am now, and Harriettville with supplies in case the towns were cut off by bushfires. So items such as food, water and mobile phones were all placed in large storing containers. Now, most of residents decided to evacuate, but some decided to stay. You didn't want to evacuate yesterday?
I did evacuate. I live in Freeburg. And I fell back to town here. With the smoke came in very, very quickly. It was quite thick to eye stinging level. And after that, it sort of hung around for a bit. Then we got some rain, sweet rain.
You didn't evacuate?
No, stayed. I knew the rain was coming, and we were going to suss it out today. Yeah. And it's changed.
So you think you made the right call?
We think we did, yep.
Did you evacuate yesterday?
No.
You felt it was safe?
Well, I've seen worse. Yeah, it has been worse. So it was pretty horrible, but we've got a long way to go yet. There's a bit more, probably another 2 months of fire season. So hopefully we survive.
Gab, some fairly relaxed residents you've got there at Bright, but looking to rest around the state, I guess that state of disaster will now be lifted tonight?
That's right, Andrea. So far, more than 1.3 million hectares of land has been burnt in Victoria. More than 280 homes have been lost, but looking forward, conditions will be milder. We're expected to have 10 days of milder conditions. This will give firefighters a chance to rest and authorities the opportunity to work with communities.
The 10 days of mild conditions provide us with the chance to rest some of our people. So people are very, very fatigued. That's the case with communities, but also the case with our emergency service personnel. They are very exhausted.
We need to plan through, and we are planning through till the end of March and what that looks like for us.
Despite the cool change, Victorians are being advised to monitor conditions, stay alert and to download the Vic Emergency app.
Thanks very much, Gab. Gab there in Bright in Victoria's northeast. Now, if we head along to South Australia, the government there has called on its federal counterparts to provide further aid as out-of-control fires devastate Kangaroo Island. The state government is asking for additional firebombing aircraft to take on the blaze from above. Some residents were able to return to their homes in Vivon Bay and Pandana after a second major blaze in a week. More than half the island has been scorched since December. The full extent of damage is still being assessed across the island.